All right, we're back. We are GAME 2015 in the winter 2018 semester. That's virtual reality development here at George Brown. And we are week 7, part 2 of our broadcast, how to import Blender animations that we just made into Unity. We just finished making a cube animation, very simple. And we want to make a Unity project to hold that, again, support some of the effects we want in VR, right? So think about what you can use this thing for. Why would I want to make this? I can make something that opens and closes, garage doors, doors that opens, shutters. If you're making a puzzle game, you can use things like something that repeats, a motion that repeats over and over again in your game, right, to stop a player from going through or something like that. You can also use it, to simulate things like machinery and that kind of stuff, fluids, and whatever else you want to do from Blender. You can even attach a particle system. Be aware, though, you don't want a particle system that spews out stuff. You want a particle system that wraps around the object so it doesn't kind of skew when it rotates, right? Or have an object that you're just using that doesn't skew and rotate. You're just using it as a placeholder where the particle system will follow the locomotion of the object, not the animation. Okay? And what's the difference between locomotion and animation anyway? Anybody? How about Corey? Corey, what's the difference between locomotion and animation? What do you think that is? In your own words.
Locomotion is like moving a static object.
Okay, kind of vague. Kind of vague.
But like a car driving down the street is not going to have its antenna flapping. In locomotion, but if it's a cartoon car,
Okay, all right. So cartoon cars and animation. I kind of think of it like this. I have the box itself, almost like a bounding box that's around my game object, whatever it is. Maybe it's a player, a character, or something like that. When I move the bounding box from one location to the other, it's locomotion, right? Now, what's happening inside that bounding box? The actual movements inside the bounding box as I'm moving it from one place to the other, a physical location, I can animate it. I can have motion inside the bounding box, and that's my quote animation, right? So I can both do animation and locomotion. They're two different things. All right, so just like every good Unity project, we want to set up some folders. I'm going to make some basic folders for this. One of them is going to be my scripts folder, which we're probably not going to make today. I'm also going to use my scenes folder, which we are going to make today. So kind of a new folder called scenes. I'm also going to make another folder called animations. We're definitely going to have that. And maybe another folder called prefabs, and you can have material and texture folder. We're not going to probably use those today. So material and textures. There we go. And so what I want to do is I want to go into my animations folder and import my asset, right? Input my new asset from my desktop. This is where I have it, and it's my cube animation.blend import. Now again, remember what this is going to do. It's going to take my Blender file and import not just the Blender file, but also the animation clip that comes with it, right? Which is kind of cool. So I'm going to scroll down here all the way, and you can see that there's an area that I want to attach loop time to. I want to kind of click this on so I can have my looping animation. Cool. And what I want to do is I want to drag this thing onto my scene. So that's the thing. And I'll call this thing the player. Let's call this the player. So my player cube. Balls and squashes and all that stuff. And if I want to have an animation attached to it, I need to create a new animator controller, which I'm going to call the cube animator. There's my cube animator. I'm going to take my player object now and drag and drop my cube animator into this space that says controller. And there we go. Now this should be enough to get my cube rolling. Now, my camera may not see it. And by the way, let's just focus in on where my cube is. Here it is. Okay, there's my cube. So it's really big, and it's coming off way over there. And if you look at it, what I want to do is when it kind of comes into my scene, I want it to kind of come in front of my camera. Now, my camera is, unfortunately, really big. And, oh, yeah, one thing we didn't do, of course, is we didn't set up my cube animator. We're using Mechanim here. So we want to try and drag and drop this cube animation in there as the first animation. There's my default take, which is really my cube falling. And I can rename this thing to whatever I want. I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to press save, though, and save my scene as main. Main. Oh, main. There we go. Okay, cool. So now let's try it again. So now we'll see if there's any motion at all. Okay, it flashes by us, and it keeps flashing by us. Why? Because our camera is way too close to the action, right? So again, if I move in here, and you see where my camera is like right in front of it. I can pull this back a little bit. So remember, when we stage an object, for big actions, staging now we're talking about, another principle of animation, I want to pull the camera back so I can see the whole thing as much as possible, right? So again, I want to kind of move this back even more. And we see the object moving. I can also rotate this. So if I want to rotate this object with my camera so I can see it a little better. There we go. So it's kind of moving. And if I look at it from a game perspective now, this is what I want. Okay, now remember, I did all that in when I'm playing, and all that's going to be erased. So I got to remember some of these values. So minus 23 and minus 42 is what I want. So minus 43 and minus 22, I think it is. You can definitely do what you want to do, but notice here what's happening is my position is changing according to how I animated it, right? Yeah. Yeah, so you can put that one down to the 0 point, and it'll start from there if you want, right?
Okay, is there any way to set?
Oh, start it there and move it. Well, you'd have to find it. So if you want the actual object to be when it lands, as an example, to be at the 0 point. Now, even here, as we see, the 0 point's like way to the right, right? Chances are you have to do a little bit of math, right? But that's only because the way we've done it. But if we do it a little differently, we can have it so that it's actually not so bad, right? It really depends on, there we go. Again, I want to take a look at my camera. So the position is 12.9. So these values here, unfortunately, I can't do anything about when I'm doing things in real time. 12.9. No, you can, I mean, again, it depends on, you can also do multiple animations, right? All I'm doing is one. So you can break this down into different steps, right? And then I can bring it into Unity as different effects that I want, right? So minus 30.36, minus 28, 12.9. .9, 8, it's 5. There we go. So again, imagine if I had something that was constantly falling in the game, if it was doing some repetitive action. This is where I would use this. A machine turning, you know, an object falling, something that's moving past your screen. Maybe the character has to, you know, go through it. Remember, you can attach a collider here that will knock the character off the a platform or do something else that's weird. But this will follow exactly what we tell it to do. And if you notice, there's some problems with the animation that we had put together. But it's okay. Again, it's just a learning process. It's something that you can try over and over again. I was explaining it to you. That's why it took so long. But you can do it a lot quicker. In fact, let's do another one that's much quicker than this. We'll make a coin animation that spins around. All right? So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to save it, save the scene, go back to Blender. Okay, so remember how we did this one. I'm going to save this one out and make a new one. Again, I want my units to be meters. I didn't do that with the other one, which is perfectly fine. So here's my units as meters, right? I want to get rid of this, the cube. I want to also make these hidden. So this, the camera and the lamp. So I want to hide these with the H key. And I want to add in a new object, which is a cylinder. With my cylinder, I want to use this as my coin, but I need to modify it a little bit. So I'm going to start off with my vertices. I'm going to go down to about 16 vertices, or maybe even 8. Let's go to 8. Yeah, it's kind of octagonal. Let's go maybe 12. So kind of like that. That's not bad. So 12 vertices, I'm cutting them down because it's maybe I'll have more of these. I don't want it too much. And then what I want to do is I want to scale this in, but only on the z-axis. So I want to make the coin kind of thin like this. All right, so a thinner coin. I want to rotate this object across the x-axis 90 degrees. I want to look at this from the front, right, as an example. Here's my coin. Or actually, maybe in this case, the side, because I want to cut this thing in half and replicate what I'm doing from one side to the other. In that case, remember that we replicate this way. So what I want to do is rotate this whole thing across the z-axis 90 degrees. That's the front. Now what I can do is whatever happens on one side happens on the other, right? So what I want to do is I want to create a cut along the middle. So I'm going to go back and go into edit mode, cut the middle part, make a cut in the middle, press enter. So now I've got a cut. And if I zoom in here, you can see that I've got my coin. I'm going to go into ortho mode so you can see what it looks like. I want to press the Z key to make it transparent, A to delete, to deselect everything. And use my B button to kind of select on the left side of my coin and then delete it, right? Now I have half the coin geometry. That's what it looks like, right? Just like I did, this is kind of a good practice because I'm going to have my coin be proportional and even. On the right, I'm going to go to my modifier, add a mirror modifier here. We've done this a few times now, so you should be able to see this. And if it doesn't turn out the way you like for example, hey, you know what? Guess what? It's not mirroring properly, or it's on top of each other. You can mirror across different axes, right? So you can see what it's going to look like. There we go. Okay. And I don't want clipping to happen. But what I do want is when I modify this side, I want the other side to be modified. So let's start off by selecting the edges. So I'm going to select the edges, and then Shift Alt right click, or Shift Option right click, select all the edges. Press E to extrude, enter, and then E to extrude, S in. Create that effect there. Now again, it's going to happen on the other side. You can't see it. But now I want to press E to extrude, enter, and then I want to kind of move this in a little bit to create that little ledge for the coin. And it should do it on the other side nicely, so I don't have to duplicate my work. That's why I did that. Yay, my coin is done. I'm going to select all, and I'm going to remove doubles. Got some double edges, 12 vertices I removed. There we go. And I want to go into object mode and apply my modifier this time. So I don't want to do too much work here because we don't have time. I'm going to go to my material, add a new material. I'm going to call this gold, right? Like gold metal material. Change my color so it's kind of goldy-like, maybe in this spectrum up here. And I also want to make it very shiny, so I'm going to change my specular quality. My specular shader is going to be turned right up. I'm going to use Fong as my specular shader, and also make it emissive a little bit, just a touch. Just very little, a tiny bit of emissive. It's almost like it glows, right? There we go. So we got our coin. I'm going to save the scene. So save. I'm going to call this coin anim. I haven't done the animation yet, but I will. Coin animation. There we go. And then save. And now I want to do that animation. Just like before, what I want to do is I want to set up my default steps. I want to go to the front, right? And I want to go to orthographic mode, right? And I want to start my coin so it faces me, right? So I want to kind of rotate this coin across the z-axis 90 degrees. So it starts like this, right? And I also want to reset all my adjustments. I've made a bunch of adjustments here. So rotate across the x-axis, the z-axis 90 degrees. And like I said, if I go to this, you can see that there's all kinds of rotations here. I want to zero all those out, right? And the way to do that is if you press Option A, I think. No, that's not what it is. It's this is in edit mode, by the way. Is it Option A? No, or Alt A? Nope. Basically, what I want to do is I'm trying to I want to zero out the changes, right? Because otherwise, we'll have some weird stuff. But it doesn't really matter. All right, so here I am in object mode, and I want to do those steps we did before. I just can't remember the adjustment. I'm sorry. But what you want to do is I want to capture my initial keyframe, which is this one. So I want to press I and then location, rotation, and scale, which captures the initial keyframe. I want to go to the next keyframe. Again, I'm really way out here. I want to go to, let's say, maybe something like 60 frames max, right? I want to zoom this in, just like we did before, and move this out so I can see the keyframes that I want. Okay, so I want to go to keyframe number 5. It's going to be a very simple animation here. And I want to rotate across the Z-axis 30 degrees. I want to, and also add my keyframe, move to the next one. You can see where I'm going to go here, right? I'm going to rotate 30 degrees every time, right? So rotate across the Z-axis 30 degrees, and then add my keyframe, move to the next one with the scrubber. Rotate across the Z-axis 30 degrees, right? And then add my keyframe. Rotate across the Z-axis 30 degrees, and then add my keyframe. Rotate across the Z-axis 30 degrees. Yes. Because if you did that, it would be weird. It would like flip like really fast. It may not flip, it may flip the other way. Like you have to tell Blender what to do, right? So rotation, location, and scale. So far what I've got is something like that looks like this. Right? Want to keep going. Rotate across the Z-axis 30 degrees. Capture the keyframe. Now this is only halfway. So if I went from here and I kind of went back to here, it would actually flip. That's wrong, right? So I want to keep going. So I want to come to here, rotate across the Z-axis 30 degrees, capture the keyframe. Again, same process. And I'm doing, there's no extra keyframes I've got in here, right? I'm going to keep doing that same thing, rotate across the x-axis 30 degrees. So the z-axis, I mean 30 degrees. Whoa. Rotate across the z-axis 30 degrees, and then capture the keyframe. Sorry, that was a goof up. Okay, and then over here, rotate across the z-axis 30 degrees, capture the keyframe. Two more. Rotate across the z-axis 30 degrees. Capture keyframe. Then rotate across the z-axis 30 degrees. Capture keyframe. Okay, now you're going to say, whoa, I'm at 360 degrees. Won't this mess me up? Because it's going from 360 to 0. But we're at the ends, and they kind of look the same. There'll be a bit of a bump, and you'll see that the bump is going to be there. So if I actually play this here before I bring it in, you can see what it looks like. It's kind of going to do one of these, right? See that bump? Such a slight bump. How do I get rid of that? Can I get rid of it? Yep. So let's try that out. If I did that, would I have to do it here or just a frame before? See what I'm talking about? Let's try to do what you said. So if I go to here, so if I get a rotate, so it goes over here to the z-axis, and I come to right here, you can see that it goes from all the way to 540 degrees. Look. So 360, and then it comes to here, here, and here, and then it goes all the way to 540 degrees. So you're saying go to 539. The reason why it's 530 is because of the way I've rotated it, okay? So if I did that, if I said 539, so 539 degrees, right? So it's so slight. And if I captured that frame instead, let's just do what you said, and then I try it again, I don't know if you'll see much of a difference. It's almost perfect. Maybe a little bit less, but not bad, Corey. Thank you. All right, so cool. So we've got our coin rotating. Let's bring this into Blender, right? Or Unity, I mean. So I'll save this thing, so I'll stop this. Could I optimize this? Absolutely. I can make it faster, I can smaller, I can make my coin different sizes. Save. But we're not going to do any of that. I'm going to file, export. So you've seen this twice now, right? That's why I'm showing you this thing. I'm going to export this as the cube animation FBX. I only want to do selected objects. I don't care about anything but the mesh. And I'm going to click export FBX. Great. I'm going to go back into Unity, and I'm going to bring this in. So I'm going to go back into my animations. I'm going to bring this in. So assets, import new assets. I'm going to go to the desktop and grab my coin animation, bring it in. Again, like I said before, I want this thing to be in loop time. So I want to push this on and click apply. I want to make a new cube animator because I know I'm going to do that, so it animates. So I'm going to go create animator controller. I'm going to call this the coin animator. Before I go into make that mistake that I made last time, notice that I have this default take automatically. Here's what I really wanted to do, this one. So zoom that in. My coin animator. I want to take my coin animation now and drag that in. Here's my default take for the coin. Save it. And then I want to go into my, let's bring my player off the scene. So go back to my scene. I want to get my player, get rid of my player for now because I don't need it. And I want to bring my coin into the scene. So here's my coin animation, bring that in. Well, my coin animation doesn't have a controller, and I can just drag and drop my coin animation in there. Cool. So that should be everything I need, except for it's not in the scene. That was weird. Renamed it F by accident. Okay, cool. And there it is. Where's my camera? Well, it's way far away now. Let's make this 0, 0, 0 so I don't mess things up, right? Because I want to be able to see everything because I moved my camera way far away. Actually, I just zero everything out there. Reset. Cool. My camera's right here. Let's move it out. There's my coin. And now if I play, you should see the coin animation if I did it right. Yeah. Thank you, Corey, for that fix. But you see, that wasn't that difficult to do. So here's another great case for this. I can use as many of these things that rotate, like things that I'm going to collide with or pick up or whatever as possible. It takes 2 seconds for you to make them in Blender. Like literally, this didn't take long at all. I mean, I even took longer because I told you about it. And it's fairly good. It comes into Unity nicely. So anything like this, if I'm going to make a waypoint, I know some teams are making a waypoint that they can navigate to with their VR. Anything like that, you can craft it in Blender and bring it in here. And even add your own textures and shaders. And use post-processing effects to make this as bright and shiny as you want. To flip it, yeah. So let's say let's do it on the cube. So that's a good thing. So you're saying, can I use the animation? Well, remember, it's just an animation, right? So if I take the coin away, so this is my coin. Let's put this in as a prefab. So I'm going to have my coin prefab, right? Let's say I want to use my animation. So here's my cube animation. Bring that in there. Let's get rid of my coin. And my cube, let's call this the player. And now look, he is starting position. This is your question. Starting position is 31, Y, and Z is minus 1.3. We can also zero this out if I want. I'm not going to do that right now, right? But let's suppose instead of having the cube animator there, I want to put the coin animator there. So I want to put that in there. Now this is going to be really whack because it's not going to do what you think it's going to do. So let's just move the cube back in there. So I'm going to reset the cube. There it is. And now what we expect to see is that the cube is going to just move around just like the coin would. Let's see if that's true. So yeah, right?
It modifies the model.
Huh? Yeah. Well, the coin modified the model, but I can change that. I can go in there and say, I'm not going to do that, right? Because the coin animation also ties into other things that it does. Notice that my scale is changed, right, on one side, right? Because that's what I did with the coin. So I could go in there and say, I don't want to change the scale. I can go into my coin, my animation that's tied to this and say, no, I just want the rotation. But you can see it didn't take long for me to do it. You can apply other animations as long as, because my coin, remember I told you I wanted to zero it out? I didn't have a chance to do that. If I zeroed out my coin animation, it would work on this. Okay? So any questions around this? This is pretty cool. I think this is stuff you can bring into your game, into your virtual reality stuff to give it more flash, a little bit more, as opposed to just a very static scene. Right? You can make a static scene now. We made in the first time we did Blender, we kind of made some kind of labyrinth, right, or maze. Now you can use some other kinds of things to make that maze more interesting. Remember, when you make your tile squares, and if you're going to use a procedurally generated maze, I know one of the teams is doing that, You can add enemies, you can add moving animations, all that kind of stuff as part of your tile as a, the tile could be the parent of these animations. And then when you add them in, these things will be there too. So that's it for me for today for animation, 12 principles of animation and how we can apply them to Blender, into our scene, into our game. I think this is really cool and important stuff for you guys to understand, at least at a high level. Next week when we get back, I want to talk about more of some more cinematography. How do I use cinematography in Unity to create a kind of a short scene, if you will, for your VR. Also, we're going to have our headsets. So I want to try, so by next week, if you could have your build ready, what I'd ask you to have your build ready for Android so we can test them on the headset. So actually, if you can deploy on your Android device, hopefully one of you in the team has one, right? And then if you do, we can actually put it inside the in the headset and try it out. I will also bring a spare phone. So if an entire team uses iOS as an example, I'll bring a spare Android phone where you could try it out next week. So be prepared for that. Again, as a reminder, while I spin down, please finish off that other assignment that you have not for this course by Sunday, right? Mobile exam. Also, next week is where you're going to have your alpha release for this course due on Friday. So please get started on that if you haven't done it already. Any questions before we depart? All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you next week and enjoy the weekend.